Good morning, one and all. Today, I, Dr. Bhavana Malik, Principal, Lovely Public Senior Secondary School, would like to discuss or put my viewpoints on price elasticity of demand. As in the previous lecture, I discussed about what do you mean by demand and the various concepts associated with demand. Today we will be focusing on price elasticity of that demand.
Students, you all must be coming across a word that is elastic. Now we all know in the similar way that a rubber band or a elastic is there, as you can stretch an elastic rubber band and how much it is being stretched upon, that is completely denoting the elasticity. What do we mean by the word elasticity is that of demand, rather, that when a demand for any particular product can be stretched over a longer period of time, then we say that demand for that particular product is elastic. However, when we are not able to stretch that demand over a longer period of time, then we call it as inelastic demand. For example, we have a product named as medicines. The demand for medicines cannot be stretched upon over a period of time, because if we need medicine at this particular time, so we are going to demand the medicine. That is, the demand for medicines is inelastic. However, when we say the demand for a luxurious good, it can be stretched over a longer period of time, because if the price of any luxurious good increases, so we can stretch that demand over a longer period of time. Thus, that kind of demand for a luxurious commodity becomes elastic demand. Moving on. Price elasticity of demand. Price elasticity of demand refers to degree of responsiveness of demand of a commodity to a change in its price. Basically, we are going to discuss about if any change in price, how much change it is going to bring about in our quantity demanded for that particular commodity. Let's say if we discuss the luxurious commodity, if there is a change in the price of that luxurious commodity, how much quantity or how much change in the quantity demanded will be affected. In the similar way, if you're going to talk about medicines, if that medicine's price also increases, will there be a change in the quantity demanded for that medicine or not? And on that basis we calculate the price elasticity of demand. So price elasticity of demand refers to degree of responsiveness of demand of a commodity to a change in its price. Moving on, we are going to have 5 degrees of elasticity of demand. Students, the very five degrees of elasticity of demand are: the very first is perfectly inelastic, next comes about perfectly elastic, then unitary elastic, relatively inelastic, and the next is relatively elastic. Now, what is the formula for calculating the elasticity of demand? The formula for calculating elasticity of demand is denoted as, since we all know that price and quantity demanded are inversely related to each other, thus there will always be a negative sign in front of that formula depicting that they both are inversely related to each other. And the formula says as delta Q, which is known as a change in quantity, that is how much you were demanding earlier and how much you are demanding right now, divided by delta P, that is what was the initial price to what is the new price, multiplied by P divided by Q. Now what is this P and what is this Q? This P denotes the initial price and this Q denotes the initial quantity. So the elasticity of demand formula goes about negative sign delta Q divided by delta P into P upon Q at any point on that curve, that is any point on the demand curve. Let us discuss about the degrees of elasticity, or we called as the degrees of price elasticity of demand also. The very first is perfectly elastic demand. That is, a small change in price leads to zero demand for the commodity. Basically, we are going to say over here as buyers will only buy at one price and no other. Students, if we are going to change the price for that commodity, if the price shifts from 500 to 600, so no consumer will buy that product at 600 because the price has increased. So any demand for that commodity will be considered as perfectly elastic. Elastic, as we discussed about, that the demand can be stretched over a long period of time. So we are going to leave this product for a while right now, and we are going to buy that product when the demand or when the price will ultimately come down. So the demand curve for this perfectly elastic demand is horizontal line parallel to x-axis. The example for this is luxurious goods, and the elasticity of demand for any perfectly elastic demand curve commodity is infinity. So the ED is denoted by infinity. So whenever we are going to solve a question and ED comes to be about as infinity, it indicates the demand for that commodity is perfectly elastic. The next degree of elasticity is perfectly inelastic demand. When change in price of a good does not cause any change in quantity demanded, it is called perfectly inelastic demand. For example, medicines. If the price of medicine shoots up, but you need that medicine, thus you need to buy that medicine anyhow, that in that case the demand for the medicines becomes perfectly inelastic, and demand curve for this perfectly inelastic demand is a straight line parallel to y-axis, because at any point, if the price is 20, if the price is 30, if the price even goes to 40, the quantity demanded remains same. So it will be a straight line parallel to y-axis. Example, demand for medicines, demand for necessities. So the perfectly inelastic demand has 0 as its numerical value. As we discussed, perfectly elastic has infinity, so perfectly inelastic has 0 as its elasticity of demand. The next is unitary elastic demand. As the word denotes unit, so unit is always denoted by 1 in our economics. So percentage change in price and percentage change in quantity demanded, when they both are equal to each other, that is, any change in price is equal to the change in quantity demanded, then that kind of demand is considered as your unitary elastic demand. As you can see in the picture also, when the price changes from P1 to P2 and the quantity changes from Q1 to Q2, so this change in price is equal to change in quantity. So this kind of change is considered as equal, and it will be considered as your unitary elastic demand. The next is relatively elastic demand or greater than unit elastic, to which we call it as elastic demand. Basically, when the percentage change in quantity demanded of a good, that is delta Q, is greater than your percentage change in its price. As you can see in the picture also, students, when the price changes from P1 to P2, the quantity changes from Q1 to Q2, but the change in price is relatively less as compared to your change in quantity, because change in quantity is greater over here. So this kind of demand is considered as your elastic demand, where elasticity of demand is always greater than your 1. That is, we call it as greater than unit elastic. The last one, or the last degree of elasticity of demand, is inelastic demand, which we call it as relatively inelastic demand or less than elastic demand, where we say percentage change in quantity demanded of a commodity is less than the percentage change in its price. Now see over here in the picture as well. This picture clearly denotes that the percentage change in quantity demanded is 10%. However, the percentage change in its price is 40%. This 40% is definitely greater than this 10%, which is denoting that delta Q is less than the delta P. So this kind of demand is considered as your inelastic demand, or we can even say a bigger change in price is only leading to a smaller change in quantity. So this kind of demand is considered as your inelastic demand, and ED is always lesser than 1 over here. Now let us sum up the price elasticity of demand. The very first, we discussed about perfectly elastic, where your demand curve is horizontal to x-axis or a parallel line to x-axis having infinity as the price elasticity of demand. The next we discussed perfectly inelastic, where your price elasticity of demand is equal to 0. That is, any change in price will not bring any change in quantity demanded. So the demand curve over here is parallel to y-axis. Next one was unitary elastic, where the change in price is equal to the change in quantity. So the ED is 1 over here. Next comes about relatively elastic. Relatively elastic says that the change in price is lesser than the change in quantity. So the price elasticity of demand is greater than 1 in relatively elastic. However, relatively inelastic says that a greater change in price and a lesser change in quantity, that is price elasticity of demand over here, is lesser than 1. Thank you, students. We discussed about the price elasticity of demand in this slide, and next we are going to begin up with the factors affecting price elasticity of demand and few numericals associated with it. Thank you so much.